Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Ashok Reddy.
Good morning. That's right, we are bringing sexy back to mainframe. So first of all, welcome to CA World. Hope you enjoyed Mike's session this morning. The focus here is about no barriers. So first of all, I want to thank all our customers and our partners. I think without you, we wouldn't be here. We have had a fantastic year from a mainframe perspective, but more than mainframe, I think it has been one of those years where the first time people are stopped talking about is mainframe still around or is it going away to, like yesterday, Wall Street Journal had an article making mainframe cool again, right yesterday. So I think thanks to everyone here, we are getting a lot of feedback. I've met hundreds of customers in the last year. We have made a lot of progress in terms of we ourselves moving to truly agile. We have been on 2-week sprints. We have delivered 32 new releases since last CA World with 0 defects. And that is also a testament to all the customers who have participated in our beta programs, giving us feedback to where we can address the outcomes. So it's been a fantastic year. And also we have had many innovations which I'll be talking about, whether it's AI-based, machine learning, and we're also talking about blockchain. But more importantly, our existing portfolio, we have actually enhanced. We supported Z14 on day 1 across our entire portfolio. IDMS, Datacom support encryption, for example. So it's not just the new products, but those of you who have many of our products across our portfolio, we are making sure that we're enhancing, providing value, and leveraging the platform. So before I get into my main presentation, I also want to thank IBM, who is our diamond sponsor this year, the highest level sponsorship, and they also brought a Z14 in the back. So please take a look at that, and it's been one of those years where we are making a big difference to the industry. So in terms of the focus for today, you heard Mike talk about no barriers. So in this context, everyone has a notion of a software factory, what everyone has today in terms of how do you transform your company, regardless of which industry you're in. Today, everything is becoming digital, and in that context, you need to understand how do you address the outcome of, if you want to become a digital enterprise, what are the barriers? And one of the outcomes we think we can adopt is, if by becoming a true digital business enterprise means you need to establish digital trust. So what I'm going to talk about today is from a CIO's perspective, but you can take that message to in your own companies, because that's one of the things what we always hear is, how do you make mainframe relevant in the context of this new digital enterprise? So what we think is really the digital trust is what's going to help us to truly establish you as a digital enterprise. So let me get into that in terms of what that means. So first of all, from a digital enterprise means not everybody has to be a born digital. There are companies who are built digital because they're born, they don't have to deal with existing customers, they don't have to deal with existing infrastructure, people, processes. So, but at the same time, most of you are enterprises. Mike talked about Home Depot, Citi. We have many companies here who have been in the business for many years. But how do you actually leverage what you have to extend to reaching to billions of users in the digital economy? Because today, you have AI, machine learning, bots, apart from cloud and mobile and other things which are helping you to reach your customers. But if you want to become a true digital enterprise, you can reach 6 billion users worldwide, and you can get market share growth for your line of business. So that's really, digital business is a business which has already been in the industry for many years, but now you're extending your market permission, the trust you have, the customers have in your business. Whether you're an automobile manufacturer, a bank, a retailer. This particular, I like to use this data here Deloitte did with thousands of customers around 22 countries. What it shows is, if you want to buy a self-driving car, who do you buy from in a digital economy? What customers are saying is, I would rather buy it from somebody who has been in this business for many years. I trust them already. I know an automobile manufacturer. So I think you have the market permission. If you're a bank or an insurance company or a retailer, customers already trust you. So how do you leverage that trust to extend that to billions of users who you may not have prior relationships with? So that's really, when we talk about digital trust is, first is, how do you make sure your systems or applications or whatever customers are using are working always? You can't have something works, but then you have a shutdown between 5 to 7 in the morning, because in a true digital enterprise, somebody is using your service always. And something goes down, if you're in an airline, if it goes down for an hour, the cost is huge, right? So the second part is delivering world-class digital experience is very important. So trust means when I'm using a mobile app or I'm working with your digital service, does it give me the experience of born on the cloud company experience, or I'm using like Apple products? So you want the same experience. If somebody gets delayed, they may move on. So in order to reach those customers who you haven't worked with, you have to set up that experience. Then the other part is how do you actually verify the users? The identities are changing. Today, there is lots of fake news. People talk about, you don't even know who is posting reviews of your products on the web. We have vendors claiming people are going out of business in mainframe, but they themselves are creating FUD. So how do you know who is real, who is fake? So that's the problem you face when you go to digital world. From your company perspective, right now you have priorly established relationships. When you don't have it, how do you do that? Then the last part is the data. One of the things everybody trusts you with is the data they've given us, right? All of you, whether you're a bank or a government agency or a retailer, you have a lot of the data about your customer. To me, that's the trust again, because when something like Equifax happens, none of us gave our data to Equifax. But then, who gave them that? How didn't we protect that thing? So it's if you actually Google dashboard, if you just do that sometime later today and it'll go to your My Account dashboard in Google, and you'll see there is at least about 15, 20 apps which are tracking you. Every day, we know, everybody knows where you've been here, from Google Maps onwards to, this is one company like Google who has so much information. If you go to Amazon, they know exactly what you bought and what you did. So people trust you with that information, and how do you protect that? So those are the things. So it's really about instilling consumer confidence in the services they can use. Then the second part is, how do you have confidence? Your business has confidence to take risk. Those are the two aspects of digital trust. There is a session tomorrow at the same time. Gartner's Daryl Plummer will be here. I advise, if you're able to attend that, he's going to be talking about trust and disruption. So let's move to now outcomes. At the end of the day, we talk about what are the outcomes you're trying to achieve, what are the right outcomes to become a digital enterprise. Based on some of the successful enterprises whom I'll talk about in a little bit later, these are some of the outcomes we see are the right ones when it comes to becoming a true digital enterprise. Some of it is, first of all, you need to ensure you have resources to allow you to transform your company. So that means you need to first optimize your business, make it much more efficient of what you have, and then you can move towards transformation. So you need to understand what resources you have and what resources you need. The second part is, can you assure your systems work always, right? Work always, and for those of you who are in the mainframe, that means it's not a few hours downtime, a few hours, 99.99 outside your scheduled outage. You don't have time for outage. So establishing trust includes making sure that I talked about digital experience. We also have to protect data and verify people. So those are some of the outcomes. So in this context, what are the barriers our customers face If those are the right outcomes, you'll see that if you want to ensure resources, our number one challenge, at least for those of you who are using mainframe, is we did a survey earlier this year, 2/3 of your MIPS are growing. But at the same time, your budgets may not be, so you are trying to free up resources towards digital projects and transformation. So that's a challenge. The second one is systems. If they go down, some of the airlines you saw this past year, when they lose for a few hours, it takes the airline for next 3 days because all the dependencies and the amount of trust they built with you is lost. People are not finding skills. That's a big problem. So how do you assure systems can run all the time when you have people who are experts are retiring and you can't fill them fast enough? Then some of the other things are, there is obviously lots of COBOL, millions of lines of COBOL. We have the verifying people. I talked about ransomware. Every day you find out somebody is getting into your systems and asking for money in Bitcoin. And at the end of the day, even with digital trust, people talk about blockchain, for example. It doesn't scale. So how do you actually make all these barriers go away to really become a true digital enterprise? So that's really where we always get asked, so where do I start? The way you assess yourself is to start with understanding every company is different. So when I have a health problem or whatever, right, I had to go to a doctor because some of the things what I had, you always start with some initial symptom, but you don't know if that's where you want to focus because you need to get a complete health check. So similarly, if you have your current software factory, do an MRI. We call it mainframe resource intelligence, but you can apply tools and things what we are making available as an offering. We even have a smart bar here for MRI where some of you want to get a free assessment for your companies. First come, first serve, we'll be offering that. So what it does is to do an MRI of your resources, your current systems, your skills, how much money are you spending on hardware, software, licenses, and be able to then decide what do we do with, where do we start with? It's a prioritization. Jimmy Chen this morning talked about how do you balance your work life and travel and being out for 6 weeks in Antarctica. What he said is, at the end of the day, you have to prioritize. So if you get a report on your health check, like when we got some, I get a cholesterol and doctor may say, hey, your cholesterol is high. But if there is a problem, do I focus on the cholesterol or do I focus on if there is a blockage, artery, or you focus on if your blood pressure is high? So similarly in your company, what's the most important thing you need to focus on? So that's really where we think that you need to, first of all, prioritize and based on your barriers, apply some best practices. So these are at a high level. If you are looking at how do I ensure resources, optimize your platform. I'll talk about each of these things in terms of some of the best practices customers are applying and what we at CA are announcing, and also with partnership with IBM in some cases around addressing digital trust. So some of the things are here at a high level for ensuring resources, optimize the platform, for assuring systems when you have retiring skills and you want to make sure you maintain your SLAs, you want to create a self-driving data center, just like a self-driving car. Experience is all tied to DevOps and it needs to be DevSecOps. It can't just be development without ops. It can't be something without security. So you need the whole experience where you can, are you built for change? And verifying people, data is important, and then establishing digital trust means you need to do that at scale. We are not talking about scale where you have a few 100,000 customers or 1 million customers. We are talking scale where you have billions of users, billions of customers, billions of devices now, and trillions of things, contact points. So let me go through each of these things to talk about some of the best practices. And what we find is from optimizing the platform to ensure resources, you can look at your capacity. For those of you who are mainframes, you may have capacity, but are you using it the most optimally, efficiently? Like whether you are spending money on MLC, many people may have multiple mainframes and LPARs. It's like me having a family cell phone plan. Like my daughter may over-exceed her plan, my son, but I may not be using as much. But looking at that holistically is what we need to do and optimize it. So that's how do you feel like if we can save 8% out-of-the-box savings on your MLC charges, or if you can save on optimizing your capacity. The second part is we find that many people don't leverage the specialty engines. If you are operating mainframes, if you can more and more leverage the zip and specialty engines, people save average 55 to 60%, like DHL did when we shipped IDMS with the zip enablement. They saved 55% right off the bat. Similarly, standardizing software, when people have, especially in the mainframe world, you need entire life cycle. Things work standard way, so you can standardize on software with retiring skills. We can help look at what it is that you're missing. So this is some of the savings you can get. So some of the things where we're announcing, I'll go through, is in this case is dynamic. We announced an offering called Dynamic Capacity Intelligence, which you can find out more at the Smart Bar here as well as at other sessions. It helps you with the capacity optimization. And we shipped it this year, and we are enhancing that with machine learning. You'll find out more in other sessions, but that's something which we are offering, announcing here to optimize the platform. The second part, as far as how do you assure systems? You have SLAs you have to meet, maybe 99.999 or 100%. You also have people retiring. How do you actually still get to those SLAs and still assure systems which are running always? The last time Visa had an unscheduled outage on a mainframe was 22 years ago. Think about assuring system means for an enterprise customer versus somebody every day, they reboot their systems. Or one of our colleagues in Microsoft wrote a book about hit refresh. In their case, if something goes down, they just hit refresh. How many can hit refresh in a mainframe and your airline is down? So self-driving data center is very important. And what we are talking about is you first of all have to apply modern user experience and be able to bring visual analytics to help newer generation work in the mainframe and it's connected. The second part is you can apply AI and machine learning to augment that. And then now we also say it's all about, not just about having AI and machine learning, because they are very good at learning from data, but at the end of the day, it's humans who lead. So you help humans, you augment humans to lead with what you learn from the machines. Before you then automate that, you need to remediate. So it's really, how do I learn? I make sure that I'm learning from, make sure experts are training me, and then I automate that. So that's really how you don't just get into right now the self-driving cars, when they're experimenting, they don't just send off an empty car everywhere, right? There's somebody sitting there just in case. So you need that initially, and then maybe over a period of time you'll improve. So instead of me talking about this, I want to invite Greg from Southwest Gas to come and tell us how he is trying to get closer to a self-driving data center. Greg? Welcome. Tell us about what you're doing at Southwest Gas and with some of the operational intelligence.
My name is Greg Payne. I work for the actual local gas company here called Southwest Gas. We actually hit a major milestone within the past couple of weeks, passed our 2 millionth customer, something we've been striving to do, and we finally successfully passed it, and it was something they actually made a big deal out of. Part of what I want to talk about today actually has to do with my experience with using the mainframe operational intelligence. I personally have been part of the validation teams pretty much almost from day one. We actually have the product up and running, and there is actually a specific instance that I want to speak about that actually has to do with, it's kind of, how did I pull off doing something 5 times faster? Well, what we had is we had a situation where we had an auxiliary storage shortage on one of our LPARs. Thankfully, my regular automation actually happened to catch it. I was notified. We don't really have the operational intelligence configured to do any type of automation yet, but what I did do was able to leverage essentially the real-time streaming and the capturing of the data from the mainframe. Of course, first I had to address the storage shortage and was able to identify the address space, but now I'm like, well, now I have to figure out first off, how long has this been happening, and I have to find the root cause so it doesn't happen again. But being the fact that I've identified the address space and with the real-time streaming, the operational intelligence was actually able to, I was actually able to bring up what we term as the green highway, which is good for every metric that is streamed to the operational intelligence, was actually able to bring up the information, the green highway for this particular metric, for this particular address space, only to find this has actually been creeping up for almost 2 full weeks. One of the things that made it easy, because I had that information, I could literally go back to, and unfortunately the address space in question was actually running what's called sub equals master. So unfortunately there's no job log, so I couldn't even just check the individual address space job log. So I needed to go to my syslog, and thankfully we keep about 3 months of syslog in archive. But with the information, seeing when the anomaly had first started, which was approximately 2 weeks before we actually hit the storage shortage, I could actually pinpoint which GDG I needed to recall so I could investigate the problem. Well, if I didn't have operational intelligence, the only real way I would have been able to do this was, first off, I really don't know what I'm looking for because I don't know what exactly has happened. Now, I do know the address space, but I don't want to have to search through 3 months of syslog data. I have SMF data, of course, but to actually get to that, I would probably actually have to write a program because I don't have a program just sitting on standby for me to gather the data regarding auxiliary storage. But thankfully, within, I'd say, less than 10 minutes of finding out what the problem was, finding out the address space, I was actually able to identify an anomaly, an actual add-in within the syslog for this particular address space. Of course, I had already recycled, but anyway, this particular add-in had caused the address space to start using additional auxiliary storage, something that in normal behavior, it hardly used any at all. So anyway, without operational intelligence, I would have been scratching my head for quite some time trying to figure out what this problem really was.
Great, thank you, Greg. Appreciate again, and for keeping us all safe here.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. So Greg, obviously, is local here, and all of you are enjoying Las Vegas with Southwest Gas providing, if you see their ad, it says, are you smelling gas? And so you want systems to be assured, right? So thank you, Greg. So one of the things that we are announcing here is we had Operational Intelligence 1.0 last year. It's been a very good success, but initially we started off focusing on performance data and only CA products. So based on all your input, one of the things we have done is to really extend that beyond that. And as an example, now we are introducing some new things to combine not only machine learning and learning from data with additional algorithms. So just like when you watch movies on Netflix, it recommends you based on what you have watched in the past. So we have got a recommendation system now, which allows you to decide what's the specific action it's going to take before you can automate that as a remediation. So what we are doing is, on this chart you'll see on a clustering mechanism, it's able to bring all the data together and it'll recommend something, but it's still somebody, an expert, is going to either like or it doesn't like, and you train the system. So this is what I call augmented intelligence. So AI is not just about running things on their own, but it's really, at the end of the day, as I said, it helps humans lead. And that's really what we are trying to do here, is to help experts to train. And the things what we are doing with MOI 2.0 is extended that to different systems, not just performance. And we support multiple data sources and we also are adding, we supported SMF data, and we are using open API between all these products, so that way we can leverage that to help you to use data from any third-party products. And we are adding more algorithms, and the last thing is you can do automatic remediation to tie that to automation if you're using like Ops MVS or using Atomic One automation platform. So that's how you do it, is you basically first learn, use sentiments, apply machine learning, and then have humans train it, and then you can automate that. So that's the way you get to closer to the self-driving data center. The next one I want to really excited about talking is really how do you create the true world-class experience in terms of developers. For those of you who are developers here, or people who, if you are going to talk to your development teams, the first thing we find out from a mainframe is people talk about DevOps, but they have no clue in terms of what that means from mission-critical applications. Because you can't just make changes and deploy and learn fast. As I said, that in a mainframe, if you make a change and then you find out once it's in production, it's too late. You can't just learn fast. You're learning fast to be out of the company, right? So you want to make sure that these are some of the best practices we have found leading companies are doing, which is how do I automate shift left? So how do I bring operations to the developers? So when they're developing and testing, they're running the code and the infrastructure same as the production, so they're able to make sure that whatever patches are applied, security, everything is done in the development test environments, so they can make sure that they're removing the friction between when they develop, test, and deploy. You don't find out only it's too late. Then you can also apply, the other biggest thing is with skills. Trying to make whatever tools you want for mainframe is being a failure, right? Because at the end of the day, developers like to use what they know. Especially if you hire people from colleges. My son goes to NYU, and they use tools what they know. They're using command line, they use Sublime, they use Xcode for developing for Apple, iOS, Android Studio. How do you force them to say, use my IDE, use my specific thing for mainframe? So that's something which we find taking that friction out, let them use whatever they use, make everything as a service from mainframe, so they don't have to know there is even a mainframe. So that's, to me, is one of the things what HSBC has done. HSBC, as you know, is one of the largest banks worldwide, and if you think about what they do in terms of what they are trying to develop, they actually are delivering true continuous delivery using the mainframe with multiple teams worldwide, and you see the statistics, 2,000 deployments per month using Agile and weekly mainframe release cycles. Now this is truly, again, they talk about being a world's local bank. They are. They run globally, but they are a local bank. But again, they do a fantastic job, and they, of course, use some of our products like CA Endeavor, which now supports Java, it supports Eclipse integrations, and some of the things what they've done is outstanding in terms of how they've automated the shift left so that their developers can truly become providing continuous delivery in a mainframe environment. The one which is really exciting for us, we are announcing where you'll be able to preview that in a smart bar here is mainframe as a service. We have got this project code name Brightside, taken from the Star Wars. You have the dark side and then the bright side. So the bright side here is you get to have your developers, line of business developers, use whatever the tools they have. The bright side of that is really you are not forcing them to do anything different. If they're using open source, they're using Git, they're using Gradle, Maven, anything they're doing across this continuous delivery pipeline, they can use it. I can go and develop in a cloud like IBM Cloud, and then I want to deploy to a mainframe. They don't even know there is a mainframe in existence. So that's really where we are going. There is a preview here. What we are going to do is to open source all the interfaces here. So it's not going to be proprietary. It will be open sourced in the next few months, where we'll partner with others to announce this. And what it does is you don't have to use any proprietary tools. You don't have to force your developers to do DevOps using whatever technology somebody has. They don't have to learn. So this is really an exciting thing, and I would definitely ask you to go to the sessions on mainframe as a service and on this smart bar around the bright side. A couple of other things in terms of identity. We are announcing a few things which are interesting for maybe for you because trusted access is many times in mainframe, things happen in the weekends, and many times you don't have everybody, who are the trusted users who have access to your systems. Sometimes you share passwords, that creates insider threats, but if you are able to elevate their access for a few hours or give somebody a higher level access. So we are launching a new offering here called Trusted Access Manager for Z, and it will ship in first week of December. What it does is it does privileged access management for natively on Z. We are initially supporting ACF2 and ACF2 on top secret, and we are working on an integration with the RACF. So I would take a look at that, and obviously we have introduced multi-factor authentication this past year, supporting now RSA and other things. So I won't go into more of the details, but there's lots of content in the conference here on security, and especially the data-centric security, because at the end of the day, for those of you who have mainframe, data is the new oil, right? It's the new currency. Visa, for example, makes more money. Where do you think they make money? They process lots of transactions, payments, but most of their money comes from the data they have. It's similarly, everybody, regardless of what industry you are, you have a lot of data, but also you have the customer's trust. So how do you make sure that you protect the privacy and the sensitive information? And some of the best practices here is discovering sensitive information first, making sure that you create a notion of data gravity, because there is so much focus here today on what do I do, how do I prevent from somebody breaking into my system? With Equifax and others, what happened, their CEO got fired. But what people don't think about is, let's see if we can actually, we know that no system is perfect, but what if we break in, do you know what information sensitive information you had in the first place? Can you create mitigation around that? So that's one of the things many people do, is to run scans. So some of the people who use our data content discovery, like Zions Bank, are finding 5% of the information is, for example, PII. So having the knowledge of what information you have and how do you want to secure it, maybe you run the data on them, keep that on the mainframe. Some of the mobile things you can run somewhere else, but just having that understanding is very important. And so I think those are some of the announcements we are making in the context of how do you optimize your digital business. But once you're optimized and you improve your efficiency, now you want to think about transformation. And when I talk about making mainframe sexy, I'm not kidding. So I'm going to bring my colleague and friend, Barry Becker from IBM, who is here going to tell us about the latest and greatest about what IBM is doing to help improve the digital trust and for everyone here. So welcome, Barry.
Thanks, Ashok. I like that, bringing sexy back to the mainframe. For those of you who don't know, most of us actually wouldn't even be here if it weren't for the mainframe. If you look at its place in our digital economy, last year alone, over 3 billion business transactions were run across the mainframe platform. Over $7 trillion worth of credit card transactions. And frankly, as you mentioned, from an airline perspective, nearly 4 billion passengers traveled last year, and their transactions ran through a mainframe platform. So I want to spend a moment and really acknowledge what we in IBM are seeing from a mainframe perspective. As hopefully everyone in this room is aware, and if not, please walk over to the IBM booth, as Ashok mentioned. Look at new Z14. We've really elevated the power of the mainframe. When you look at what we recently announced, we brought more power to the platform, we made it more open, and we made it more secure. When you look at that in the context of our collaboration with CA, we've also done that in integrated capabilities of the mainframe software suite that you've discussed, and empowered what we're really bringing to the digital economy. When you were talking about digital trust, that digital trust very much is centered on our ability to arm and equip our client base within industry to transact within the digital economy. That digital economy, whether it's through IoT, whether it's through blockchain, which we're leading the industry into thinking and how to transact in that space, is very, very critical. And when you look at our new mainframe platform, and you look at the pervasive encryption, the focus that we now have on secure service, containerization, that technology, as well as multi-factor authentication, the ability to make it extremely relative, to bring sexy back, as you said, is absolutely critical to that digital trust within that digital economy. Now, we've taken that platform and we've taken this enhancement of our capability, and I'm really excited, Ashok, of what we've done over the past year between our two companies. We deliver that mainframe as a service, what we affectionately refer to as our zCloud platform. I spoke about this last year, and over the past 12 months, the collaboration between CA and IBM is such that we've really worked to bring that mainframe as a service capability, whether it's around data content and discovery, whether it's around the conversations we're having around ZAPM, to continue to enhance the experience that our clients are enjoying. When you bring together the platform, when you bring to the power of the IBM software natively, the CA suite of mainframe software capabilities, and the depth and expertise that we have in the platform from a services position, it's extremely powerful, and it's absolutely changing the way clients and the industry transacts, and is knocking down the barriers that you alluded to earlier. And what I'm really excited about is very recently, we partnered with CA to bring exclusively on our zCloud platform the ability to have the mainframe software suite in a consumption-based model. And I congratulate you and the rest of CA to really leading the charge in bringing that type of software consumption model and what we're doing in cloud in this new digital economy.
Absolutely.
Appreciate that.
Great. Thank you, Barry. I think Barry and IBM have been great partners for us, and I think when I look at cloud, everybody talks about cloud. I posted something on LinkedIn this past Friday around AWS, and it's my highest viewed LinkedIn post ever, with thousands of people re-forwarding. It was about AWS, Lambda, and their serverless computing being the most proprietary system ever. Everybody talks about mainframe being proprietary, but now with what Barry said, it's actually, the new one runs Docker containers, it's open, it supports Linux, whereas with the AWS, if you build anything on Lambda or serverless computing, you are actually building it to their data center, not even tying it to the hardware, to the data center, to the dark fiber. So I think it's like going back to the future in the sense, like if you think that cloud is open and mainframe is not, or your CIO thinks about it that way, take a look at some of the statistics, right? So this is where I feel we are going is. So with that, I want to quickly transition to how do you look at new workloads on mainframe? And I think with AI and machine learning is one thing we talked about, data being the new oil. How can I then extend the trust, the digital trust, beyond what we are doing today? So there are two aspects. With the Z14, we have the encryption. We talk about also blockchain. With blockchain and secure containers, which is really amazing in terms of some of the use cases, what we are seeing with our customers, like Walmart, for example, has a food safety system, which they used to take, if you want to find out where a particular lot of fruit came from, it used to take them 6 to 8 days. And with blockchain technology, they did a pilot, and now they're running it on a mainframe. They can do it in less than 3 seconds. So think about that. And it's amazing use cases what many people are trying to do. And so what we are doing here is extending some of those use cases. We have a smart bar here on blockchain. There is a session where we are extending the MOI, the operational intelligence, to look at a network of networks on blockchain to make sure that you don't have performance issues. We also are supporting with the blockchain. One of the challenges with public blockchain, you're creating trust by sharing the information across millions of computers, but you can't do that in a private blockchain. So how do you do that? So we can help kind of look at what's the private information. So that's one of the areas. So with that, I want to also, you may be asking, so I know I talked about digital optimization and transformation. Who are the vendors? Are they customers who are doing this? And I mentioned this already. Visa is as one of the examples of I use, which is they're a true digital enterprise. They process billions of cards. They have millions of customers worldwide, and they ensure resources for scaling millions of transactions. They run thousands of transactions per second think about between Thanksgiving and New Year's, how much transactions will go through somebody like Visa. They also assure systems. I mentioned they actually are putting new mainframes, like for example, on their website, they're documented in Europe and in Asia Pacific to make sure that they can support the scale and growth, and they run all the time, always run, anytime, anywhere. Similarly, they are verifying people by when you use Visa card, it's always you see the verified by Visa on a digital, on the web. That's powered by CA's payment security, but they are verifying people. And same thing with the data protection, and they're also experimenting with the blockchain for some of the smaller companies in Europe. So I think somebody like Visa is truly, their revenues are growing, they're getting new customers, and they're a trusted brand. If you want to do a payment, do you trust Visa or somebody else who is born on the cloud, right? So you leverage your data, you have the trust. So if you want to get started with the journey, I'll summarize that we have MRI assessments we're offering so that you can get a good assessment on where you are with your own modern software factory and what you can do to eliminate the barriers. We are announcing new capabilities in dynamic capacity intelligence. We have specialty engine support across all our products now, including IDMS and Datacom. We support Z14 from day one on products across our portfolio, including like Panvalet, Librarian, Endeavor, and everything in our portfolio is being enhanced. Will be supported forever as long as you want to use our products. Mainframe is not going away. Don't believe all the fake news. And we are not going away. We are here. We have been here 40 years. IBM has been here for more than 100 years. Believe the truth, right? The digital trust is very important. So these are some of the things what we are announcing. And I will also say that I want to thank some of the people who are, you can actually be a true digital enterprise and leverage these best practices. You own the data, you have the trust, and we are here to help. IBM is here to help, our partners are here to help. And the last thing I want to point out is we have a few barrier breakers here I want to recognize. Ensono has been one of the great barrier breakers, and I see some of the Ensono colleagues here. Congratulations on winning a Breaking the Barrier Awards. I also talked to Express Scripts. I don't know if they're in the audience here. Again, oh, there, Sean is right here. So Express Scripts is again doing more with less, and they're maintaining SLAs, and they're doing a lot of things with everything in the world going on with the computation from the likes of Amazons and others. And then, of course, KeyBank. Anybody from KeyBank here? So KeyBank is again replacing a lot of the legacy code and bringing mainframe innovations. So at the end of the day, I think I really applaud, thank all our partners who are making mainframe relevant in this digital economy. I do think that we as a team will build the true ecosystem, and we'll be doing a lot more this year. I'm excited with all the things what we are launching, and we're also launching this digitaltrust.ai, which will bring many of the best practices as we launch some of the mainframe as a service. We'll be leveraging this, and we'll be providing more updates. So again, thank you for taking the time to come to CA World and to the mainframe, and we are bringing sexy back to mainframe.